Hello everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome back to my channel, Amber Reads Romance. Today I am actually here for another weekly wrap up. I'm going to be going over all the books that I read this last week. I think there was one book left over from March that I'm going to talk about, and then obviously wrap up the rest of this books for the first week of April. I didn't read as many as I thought I was going to, so hopefully this will be a quick wrap up, but you know how that goes. So let's go ahead and dive into my weekly reads. Okay guys, so this last week went pretty good for me on the audiobook front, but not so much the physically reading front. I got really stuck on one book for like a few days. I feel like it was just really hard for me to get through it. And I've just kind of been a little lackluster with my reading. And then yesterday I did my live show for the Mortals After Dark read along, and my internet wouldn't work. And I'm at my wit's end. Like, I literally lost it. I had to drive into town, like do it from the library again. My phone kept overheating because of course it was hot in San Diego finally this week. And my phone always overheats in the car when I'm doing the StreamYard. So it was a shit show and I apologize. I'm so sorry. And really nobody tuned in anyways because it was such a mess. And so I do want to say sorry if you happen to go to that video later to watch it later. It's just a mess. So I immediately started looking up Starlink, which is Elon Musk's, because I live in the mountains. I live in a very rural community where we don't really have any options for internet. Like, all I can use is my Verizon phone and that plan. And we don't even have the Verizon at-home internet as like an option where I live. So anyways, all that to say, I went and looked at Starlink and it said they were at capacity in my neighborhood. So now I'm trying to look into a different type of internet, but I am just so frustrated with it because I need to be able to do live shows. I have readathons coming up that I need to be active in, doing reading sprints, doing live shows. And so I can't have this keep happening to me. So anyways, that's just my little side rant. I am so sorry about the shit show that live show was. So yesterday I had that. I had to film a video and I just didn't even read. Honestly, I just really slacked off. So hopefully next week will be a better reading week for me because I need to get going here. Also, I'm going to be going on vacation the following week in Mexico. So I'm hoping I'll physically read a lot more. Maybe not. I won't as much as audiobooks because usually I listen to all my audiobooks at work. So it'll be interesting to see where I land with all my reads this month. But I do have an announcement coming later this week, so keep an eye out for that. It's going to be an exciting announcement coming later on in the week. But I've rambled already too much, so let's go ahead and dive into what I read this week. I only read 6 books, so some people might say, oh, that's plenty for the week, but usually I want to try and read a book a day or more. Definitely didn't hit that. So anyways, to finish out March, I read The Chase by Elle Kennedy. This is the first book in the Briar U. I think I have it, but I forgot to take it down. Oh yeah, here it is. Anyways, I'm not taking it down, so I'm just probably going to have the graphic up. But I needed to finally read the Briar U series. I finally finished the Off Campus last year, and then I want to read the Briar U so I can go on to her second generation books that I've really heard great things about. So I finally read The Chase, and I was really looking forward to this one because they were kind of teased in the Off Campus series, and this is Summer and Fitz. His name I think is call him Fitzgerald, but they call him Fitz. And we're still basically now we're at Briar U, and the previous hockey players, they're all graduated doing different things now. Fitz is still at college doing hockey. He's very kind of the more quiet, down to earth. He's kind of considers himself a nerd, but he's this super hot, tattooed, big guy that he wants to be a video game designer. He's an artist. He's done his own tattoo. So he's something that Summer has had a crush on for a while because Summer is actually, oh gosh, what was her brother's name? Shoot, I forgot it. Crap. He's like my favorite one too. So I'm really annoyed with myself not remembering. Hold on. Let me see if I can get that up here. Okay, so it was Dean because I was thinking it was Dean in my head, but I love so many Deans in different books, so I wasn't sure. But I think it's Dean De Laurentiis. I think that's the last name. But anyways, he was my favorite. He was from The Score, and he was kind of like the ladies' man playboy. You know, he's like the reformed rake type of personality. But this is actually his little sister. Summer is his sister, and she had met Fitz previously and has basically been crushing on him. But now in the beginning of this, things aren't looking good for her. She was supposed to be able to live at like her sorority, but she got kicked out of the school. And this is a different school. She was planning on, she thought she could still live at the sorority on campus and everything. And they basically kick her out last minute. And so now she has no place to go. And so Dean kind of asked Fitz and them to let her live with them for the school year. And so he's kind of reluctant. He really kind of likes Summer, but he also judges her kind of harshly and thinks of her as like very, all about image and vapid and like that type of, impression of her, because she is that like party girl, fun girl, into clothes, into fashion. But, Summer has a lot more to her. And so like she gets really hurt at one point because they were all at a bar one night and she overheard him. Like really he was talking himself out of pursuing her because it was Dean's little sister and he's the opposite of wanting like attention, and she's always got attention on her. So he just has these things that he's saying, like that reason like he couldn't really ever be with her. And it was kind of along those lines of her being like one-dimensional, like all about image and partying and like, there's surface level kind of thing. And she overhears that, and so she's pretty devastated, and she ends up going to like his other roommate and they start like making out, and he sees that when he was actually going to go talk to her finally. So that didn't work out great. And then so now that guy is also a roommate. So like it's a very awkward situation where that guy's into her. She kind of just wants to brush it in the past. She's into Fitz, but she also feels like he looks down on her and like she's not good enough. So that kind of starts them off on a bad foot in the beginning. She is actually going to their school now, and one thing I did love about this was it had good representation for ADHD. She really struggles with a learning disability, and ADHD, my son had that, and it was a constant struggle just to get him through school. And so I really love that representation in here because she's smart, but she just has a really hard time focusing, staying on task. Her mind goes a million miles an hour and she'll just get distracted and go on to something else. And so she really has to work a lot harder to be able to do well in school. And I think that's another reason what he said really hurt her feelings, because she feels like she's dumb, and she feels less than. And so when he said that, it really affected her. So I did like that representation in this, and she's doing more of like fashion stuff for school, but she's very smart. She just has a learning disability. They keep kind of circling around each other. He ends up like helping her out a little bit with her work and all that kind of stuff. But what I didn't love about this is she's like flirting, kind of dating, but not fully dating that roommate. And like to the point where he'll like come in her bed and like cuddle with her and all that stuff. At the same time, she's like obsessed with Fitz, and Fitz liked her. So it led to like unnecessary drama. I felt like I didn't really love that part of this book. But eventually she's gonna cut things off with him, and then it goes from like nothing between her and Fitz to like everything between her and Fitz. So I just didn't fully love that part of it, but I really loved both the characters. I thought that I love the ADHD representation in this. There was like a third act issue that was going on because she has a teacher that's being inappropriate with her. And so I liked how that was handled. And so, didn't love everything about this one, but I really did like it still. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars and 2.5 chilies. Okay, so then I had an ALC, and this one was The Nanny is Off Limits by QB Tyler. And I have not read QB Tyler in a really long time. I had some issues with her books, the last couple that I read, because they were just like all smut. And so like I was just kind of over it. You know, I didn't love how much smut it was in the book. I wanted more substance, more plot, and so I kind of just didn't really get the last couple, I think. But I really had a great time with this one. I think she did a really good job. I think this is one of my favorite like nanny romances. I thought there was actually more build up to them being sexually involved, more like connection. All of that was like the groundwork was laid there for us to like feel their connection and feel the chemistry, instead of it just being wham bam, they're immediately doing it and just that's all the book is. So I like this one a lot better than her previous ones. But anyways, this one is about Rowan and Eliana, and I think it's about almost a 20-year age gap. Not quite 20, I think maybe it's 18 years or something age gap between them. And Rowan has a lot going on. His ex-wife, you know, recently died, and so things have been kind of difficult with his kids. He's a father of 3 kids. One of them is like a teenager, so she's, you know, older, and she's, you know, having issues. The boy, one of his sons, is kind of like acting out because they lost their mom. Him and the mom weren't together anymore or anything like that, but her death has been kind of difficult for the kids. And then he kind of needs help. Basically, he needs a nanny. His brother and like family have been kind of helping him out, but he needs something more like actual full time. And one day the brother was actually watching the kids, and they were at the grocery store, and I think it was the daughter was like kind of needed help grabbing something, and so Eliana ends up coming up and helping them. And the guy's like, oh, you're so good with kids, and immediately like wants her to come work for his brother. So she does end up taking the job, and she becomes their live-in nanny. So then we have a forced proximity type of thing. They definitely had an immediate attraction to each other. So there was that. You know, I love QB Tyler because she does do interracial relationships too, and I love that. But she, you know, is attracted to him. He's very attracted to her, and so they try not to go there for a while, but eventually like they just can't stay away from each other. I mean, they're stuck in the same house wanting each other, and so they eventually start to try and hook up. Now you will kind of get frustrated a couple times, but it's understandable and it makes sense, is they keep getting interrupted because they have like 3 kids at home. So they definitely start secretly hooking up. They're not out about it yet because of the kids. But the teen daughter is like sensing stuff going on, and she's not happy about it, which I thought was handled really well because it feels realistic. A teen daughter is going to be kind of upset. So I had a good time with this. It's pretty low angst. It's a good spicy time. The audiobook was fantastic. This was narrated by Stephen Dexter and Audrey Oben. And I don't know if I've heard her before, but you know, Stephen Dexter is one of my favorite narrators. So he did a fantastic job. His dirty talk, the way he would talk to her, like just, I love Stephen Dexter. He's the best. So I ended up giving this one 4.5 stars. And 3.5 chilies. Okay, so now on to the book that had made me struggle this week with physically reading. And I was really bummed about it because I was enjoying the first half of the book, and the next half just really fell flat, and like it took me days to get through the last half. And I'm talking about Seduced by His Touch by Tracy Ann Warren. I'm finally continuing this series. This is the second book in the Byrons of Braeborn. The first book I read because it was in Jen's Rake Appreciation Society pick. And so I had ended up buying this whole like series on Mercari for a really good deal. And so I want to finish this series out. Now, I really do like Tracy Ann Warren's writing. I think she writes some really good spicy scenes. Like the spicy scenes were really great in this. It's just the pacing and the way she told the story was like where I struggled. So in this, we have Jack Byron and Grace. And Jack Byron is the brother of the hero from the first book. And he is kind of a ladies' man player. Like, you know, I think he's like the 3rd son. I can't remember which number son. So he doesn't really have that responsibility on him. But he does gamble and get into that. He's a really good gambler, though. He's very smart about the way he gambles. So what ends up happening is he kind of gets taken and he's shocked by it because this one merchant, very rich merchant, basically beat him badly, where I think it was like 100,000 pounds or something. I can't remember how much, but he was going to have a huge debt that he would have to pay. And the merchant basically said, hey, instead of paying me that, I'm going to forgive your debt, but you need to marry my daughter. And he basically says, my daughter, she wants to marry for love and all these type of things. And he wanted him to be able to marry somebody from the ton, from some society, have a good name. That was like what her father really wanted. But he's like, you're going to have to make her fall in love with you because she won't go for it otherwise. So Jack is kind of stuck in a bad position, and he ends up seeing her at the bookstore where he knew she would be. And she's a very tall, redhead, curvy, beautiful woman. So he's pleasantly surprised. And he kind of has a run-in with her. And then she ends up going to Bath with her aunt for like a few weeks or something. I can't remember how long. It might have been a couple months, but he decides to follow her there and then run into her at another, event, and slowly start like becoming her friend, doing run-ins with her. He's very playing the long game of like him becoming friends with her and then trying to woo her. And so she falls really hard for him. And, they basically are going to get married. They eventually get to that point. She was actually talking to another guy, but they were just friends. And that guy really wanted to pursue her and have her marry him. So he tries to like split them up at one point. But that backfires. This is all going to be in vlog too. So I'll have way more information in my vlog. But what ends up happening is she discovers the truth because she is going to find out the truth about what happened, why he pursued her. And what's crazy, though, is I was expecting that to happen in the third act. And it happened at like the 50% mark. So she already found out, and now she like hates him, but is still going to marry him. But she's going to have her own things that she wants set up. So like the last half of the book is her like hating him, them not being together, but like being married in the same house and like fighting. And it was just going on and on and on. And it felt very repetitive. I was pretty bored. So I think the reveal at the 50% was interesting. It was different than what I was expecting, but it just dragged on too long. There's a lot of like miscommunication between them. Like he doesn't grovel enough to me. He doesn't. So there was just all this stuff that just really fell flat for the last 50% of this book. And it frustrated me. So I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. I think if she would have pasted it a little bit better and not had so many like issues in the last half and have it drawn out. And there was lots of time jumps where it's like, oh, 2 months have gone by. Oh, another month has gone by. It's like I didn't love that. So this one was difficult. I really struggled. I read it for like the first half of the week, and then I was just kind of checked out of physically reading. I was not doing great. But so I ended up giving that one 3.5 stars and then 2.5 chilies. Okay, so then I listened to another ALC. I listened to In Good Company by Kat Singleton. And this is the first book in the Pembroke Hills series. Now, I have never read Kat Singleton, and I'm kind of surprised I haven't, because I really loved this book. I think it's a really good start to a new series. And so I want to try and read her other books because I've seen them like everywhere on social media in the past, and I just had never picked them up. So I'm definitely going to look into reading more from her. So this is between Callahan and Lucy. And Lucy is actually, she's in the Hamptons for the summer. She's kind of working at like the expensive club in the Hamptons. But she's also trying to be like a private chef. And so at the same time, she got a job with one of these rich asshole guys there to be his private chef for an event. And she goes out to talk to the table or whatever. And she ends up running into Callahan because he's there at this event. And she knows Callahan, but she tries to act like she doesn't because he's actually her ex's older brother. Now, her and the ex, it's been many years. They're not together. That's not a lot. There's not really a lot of drama around the ex in this at all. But she kind of uses that as an excuse to like kind of push Callahan away because Callahan was really intrigued by her. He remembered her and he loved how good her cooking was. So he offers her a job to be his private chef. And, she ends up taking it because it's just too good to pass up. Even though she was using him being her ex's brother as an excuse, he's like, what does that matter? Like, you're a fantastic chef. I want to hire you. So she ends up coming on as his private chef. And they just have she realized how amazing he was. He's very kind, considerate. He's super sexy. I mean, this guy's a billionaire. He's super rich. And she ends up spending a lot of time with him. He even invites her to do this golfing thing with him and end up being all couples. So they were paired up. So they have amazing chemistry together and they're kind of fighting that attraction. She was trying to do social media, videos on cooking, but she gets really nervous in front of the camera and he offers, hey, why don't you teach it to me while the camera's on so then you're more comfortable. And so he totally goes to help her out. He's just very sweet and attentive throughout this book. And so they end up really having amazing chemistry and start to fall for each other. But the problem is that she's only planning on being there for the summer. She's planning to return home because she is kind of taking everything on her shoulders with what's going on with her parents. Her dad, I believe her dad was sick. And then he had a business that's kind of falling apart, not totally falling apart, but he needs help running it. And they're not doing great that financially. So she's planning she has to go back home after the summer. And so that's kind of where she's like, well, I can't make this a long-term thing. It can only be for the summer type of thing. But of course, they're going to fall for each other hard. And this is a billionaire we're talking about. He's going to woo and charm you. And it was just really, really cute. So I had a great time with this one. This one was narrated by Connor Craze and Aaron Mallon. And they're always so fantastic together. So I ended up giving this one 5 stars and 2.5 chilies. Okay, so then a really quick one that I took, it should have been a quick one, but it took me a while to read it. Like I said, I was struggling this week. But I just picked up a novella, The Merchant Match by Jenna Bigelow. This is the, basically a novella introduction to this series she has. I did sign up for an arc, I think for the second book in the series. And so you can sign up for her newsletter and get this free novella. And so I thought I'd give it a shot. I saw Jen from the Book Refuge get this novella with her previously. So I really wanted to give it a try because this is set in during the Roman times. And so I really thought that was interesting. I don't get to read a ton of historical romance during, Rome and all of that. So this one is between Herminius and Gaia. And Gaia is actually a freed woman. She was a slave. Her previous owner basically used her sexually and she had his son. And then when he passed, he basically freed her and had set her up with a certain amount of money to come to her and his son. But his wife had hated her and was refusing to give her that money. So Gaia is in a bad situation. She's kind of living very poorly with her son. And so she ends up dressing up in the nicest thing that she had and going to this party that woman was throwing so that she could kind of confront her to get her money because she knew she wouldn't be able to handle a drama or a scene at this event. So she goes there and she does end up, confronting the woman and she runs into Herminius at this event. And he has no idea that she's a freed slave. And he's a pretty well-to-do merchant. And so he kind of is pursuing her and wanting to meet up. She gives him kind of a fake name. And so he's trying to meet up with her again. And he really wants her to become his wife. He's a widow and he really wants to get married again, but she's a freed woman and she was kind of hiding who she was to him. So that's basically what this is. It's a quick novella, although it took me a while to read it. I mean, that was a me problem though, but I mean, it's a novella. It was kind of just okay. It didn't blow me away. I did like the writing. I thought that interesting with the world, you know, so I did appreciate that. So I am interested to read like this author's full-length books for that. So I ended up just giving it 3.5 stars. Again, it's hard to rate novellas unless they like completely blow me away. So I did give it 3.5 stars and 2.5 chilies. Okay, so the last one that I read was an ALC. As you can see, most of these were audiobooks this week. So anyways, this one is Seven of Hearts by Maggie Gates. I was really excited I got this one because I've seen this author a lot on Instagram and I really wanted to try her. This one was between Logan and Leah, and this is actually like an accidental pregnancy situation here. So Logan and Leah have known each other for a really long time. She's his sister's best friend. And so she's always kind of been off limits to him. So like he comes home, he actually moved away, I think to Chicago or whatever, got out of this town. His family is like, I feel like they're from a previous series. Like you're supposed to know a lot of this stuff. So I kind of didn't know all the characters, but his, I think his father was like a murderer and he went to jail. And so he was like taken in by another family. His mom, I think was like a drug, like sold, like dealt drugs and was like a total mess where she was in jail too. So he got taken in by like this billionaire guy, you know, and raised. And so he ended up leaving town and he's this perfectionist. Like he really wants to live his life perfectly because he hated how his parents were and he just wants to be perfect at everything. So he ends up returning home for his sister's wedding and him and Leah really start drinking together, having a great time. And they end up having a one-night stand. And, you know, they think it's going to be a kind of like a one-off type of situation and they don't really want anybody to know about it. But of course she ends up pregnant and he finds out pretty quickly, but it's not from her. Like he was with his sister and she was like talking about it and he did the math in his head and he's like, oh shit, like that's my baby. So at first he doesn't handle things so well, but it's very understandable. You're not going to immediately be like overjoyed or you're going to freak out as a guy. But he does step up and I really loved that. Now, what I love about accidental pregnancy when authors do it this way is I love it when you are with them through the journey of the entire pregnancy and like the birth and everything. So I really loved that. He really steps up. He tries to support her. She has some health issues around the pregnancy, where she has to get like the insulin type of shots and everything. And she has a hard time drawing blood. And he like just is so supportive and helps her through all that. So I really loved that. This is very low angst. It was sweet and it was just, you know, kind of cute to see him fully step up. She gets kind of feisty a few times. She doesn't let him get away with anything. So, I enjoyed it. It didn't blow me away. I thought it was decent. I enjoyed the audiobook, but so I ended up giving this one 4 stars and 2.5 chilies. And then it was narrated by Alex Knox and Nikki Gray. And I don't remember if I've ever listened to them before, but they did a really good job. I had a really good time with it, but I mean, it just didn't blow me away. And I felt like I was supposed to know all these like side characters because I think they might be from like a different series. So that's kind of what's happened sometimes though. So anyways, those are all the books that I read. I'm sorry this one didn't read as much this last week, but thank you so much for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and pay attention. Put the bell on so you know when I post because I will be having an announcement coming later this week that you don't want to miss. All right, I will see you guys on the next one.